The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Hi, everyone. We have a guest this week. I'm going to keep this super short and sweet, but I had such an incredible conversation with Dr. Justin Griffin, or known as the Smile Doc, over on TikTok. We talked for almost an hour, so I am breaking this up into two parts. We'll have part one this week and then part two immediately next week so that you're not left on too much of a cliffhanger for all of the awesome advice that he has to share from his years of experience in dentistry, the times that he struggled, the times that he was stressed, the times that he doubted everything, the challenges that he still deals with, even with a successful practice, and all of the reasons that he absolutely loves what he gets to do every day. So without further ado, let's get into our conversation with Dr. Griffin. Thank you so much for your time today. Could you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about your background in dentistry, where you're practicing.
Justin Griffin. I've been practicing in Columbia, South Carolina. I've been doing it for quite some time. It hurts to say how long, but something like 25 years.
Wonderful. And you own your practice, correct?
Yes.
When did you get into practice ownership?
I graduated in 2001, and I was an associate for a year, and then bought a practice. I bought out an existing practice that he was young dentist going back to endo school, and it was in a strip mall type practice.
Have you been in that same location since? Have you relocated, and how have things kind of grown over that time?
I have moved locations. I was in that strip mall for about 11 years, and then I built a building. I have a standalone building now because of the growth. The growth has been great. I mean, if you take like what the gross collections were of the practice that I bought compared to what they are now, the gross collections are more than 3 times.
That's wonderful. Good for you. It seems like you share your journey a lot on TikTok and your career and the funny moments and the successes and some of the challenges and everything. One thing I don't know is kind of the structure. Are you just the sole doctor at your office? Do you have associates that work there?
I'm the sole practitioner. I like it small for a lot of reasons. So it's just me, and I have 4 full-time team members.
Okay, I literally this morning was just watching your video of like this was yesterday's production, and you were showing like 1.5 hygienists and then 2 columns of you working with the single assistant. So it seems like it's a tight knit group.
Yes, it's well oiled over many years, but I do feel like I have broken sort of some of the very common day-to-day practice barriers. I do. And when I mention stuff I've never ever revealed a daily production thing. I'm always really nervous. I'm really nervous about that. I just am. I don't all I want to do is let people know that things that you haven't imagined can be done. That's what I tried to do. I did a video the other day on a 10-minute crown prep, and I got some great comments, and I got some really, really bad comments about, you should prioritize quality, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just saying, what inspired me to get my crown preps to faster was the 2-minute crown prep video that was made. It's on YouTube. You can see it. And so I just want people to know that crowns don't have to take 2 hours and 2 different appointments. They can literally be done in less than an hour with great quality.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a better patient experience. If you can do good quality quicker, people are happier.
Yeah.
And you've been practicing long enough where I have complete confidence that you do wonderful work. But that's the
That's
hard
nice.
thing of putting your life online and how much you want to share. I mean, you've grown, you have a huge page. So I'm sure you've gotten your fair amount of hate and interesting comments over the years. What has kept you continuing to share?
Well, the one thing for me, if for people that want to start doing social media stuff or put their journey online, there's going to be haters. There just always is, and it's stupid. It's like high school almost. And I think generally speaking, especially nowadays, nobody gives other people the benefit of the doubt. They assume the worst, and then it's super easy behind your screen to just scream at people. So when I get a bad comment, first thing I do is I click on their account and I see that they've posted 0. And so the weight that I put on those comments, they just go down so fast. They don't know what it's like, and they don't know what I've come from, and they don't know what the post-op x-ray looks like and all that kind of stuff. So you do have to have some thick skin, and you got to, and the things that keep me going are all of the positive comments, the private ones, the letters that I get that are like, "Oh my gosh, loved the stuff that you do. Thank you for sharing." There's a lot of people that you get in dentistry, you kind of get stuck in this really small world in your op, and especially if you're in private practice, you don't have other colleagues to bounce ideas off of and say, "Hey, let me ask you your opinion about this. What would you do?" It's just you. And so a lot of people really like when other dentists like me share experiences on business management, which is something that just doesn't get talked about a lot. Like I said, I'm embarrassed to put my production numbers up. Not every day do I produce that amount of money. I just want people to know what is possible, not with 10 employees, but with four,
Mm-hmm. And
3.5.
yeah, you've mentioned that you structured your practice in such a way where you're doing it exactly how you want to and how it works for you, and you're kind of going against the norm in certain ways. So, what are some of those ways that you've structured your practice to work well for you, and what are some things that maybe is common in dentistry that you don't do?
A lot of people, when I was an associate for a year, and I learned a lot about business management during that time. And one of the things that I notice is for every treatment room, people have an assistant. They have one assistant per treatment room. And you can only see one person at a time. So anyone will talk about overhead in general dentistry, and the largest category, the greatest amount of money of any category goes out in personnel or in staff. And so I just feel like overhead can be cut by a lot, but there's a way to do it so that you can financially incentivize fewer team members to be more efficient and do more work. So we have a lot of people have a receptionist, then they've got a finance or insurance person, and we don't. We have a front deskless office. Everything happens in the back. It's just different. So, yes, my hygienist is going over an insurance estimate for the crown that we just treatment planned with somebody. They're scheduling them, they're collecting the money. So, these are concepts that you can't just show up tomorrow and go, "Okay, hygienist, you're going to start doing this." They're going to feel like you're giving me a lot more work and no more pay. Like, this doesn't seem right. There's a way to approach it with your team where they will feel very incentivized, more time off, good bonuses that are fair. And I've mentioned this too in some of the comments. Like, if I were to tell my assistant, one of the comments was, "Well, that seems cruel to your assistant." And I would, if she were here, she would get on this mic. If I were to say, "Would you like me to hire another assistant?" She would say no.
Fourth year dental students listening in, I want to share something that is essential for you to add to your graduation checklist. I'm sure you're swamped with boards, job searches, and graduation requirements, but you might be worried about what's coming next once you're actually in the real world. Our sponsor, Twin Leaf Financial Advisors, is here for you. Their free consultations for dental students ensure you're ready for life after school. They'll create a customized student loan strategy, explain dental specific insurances, clarify employer benefits, and help you budget your new income. Twin Leaf's dental specific experts bring peace of mind, letting you focus on kickstarting your dental career. I personally have been working with Twin Leaf since graduating dental school, and they have been so impactful for helping me feel empowered, less confused, and less stressed. So if you're ready to get ahead, visit twinleafadv.com. That's TWINLEAFADV.com, or you can text 321-521-3133 for your free consultation. Twin Leaf Financial Advisors, your guide to a confident financial start. Thinking about all that too, it also, by not trying to like cut corners everywhere and cut costs and reduce overhead, if you are in a good place with that, you don't need to rush your hygienist. You don't need to say 20-minute profies for everyone. You don't need to force them to compromise working the way that they want either, which I'm sure also really boosts morale.
There's a mentality out there that hygiene is a profit center. And I don't look at hygiene as a profit center. I look at it as a marketing center. And what I mean by that is you get a chance to build rapport with patients. You get a chance to look at, let's just say in one hygiene room, 5 to 8 patients a day. And that's 5 to 8 sets of teeth with dental needs. And to me, the biggest benefit is being able to educate patients, show them the things that they might consider, find out what they want, which is king. Okay, you don't present to them things you want to do. That's terrible. Find out the things that they want, offer them what they want, scheduling them out of hygiene into the treatment room. To me, that is where the value comes in, is that rapport. If you have a good rapport with those patients, not only are they going to say yes to doing some treatment, they're going to refer their friends. So if you look at hygiene, like, I can't believe we had a cancellation today, and let's see if we can do 20-minute profees. That is insane. You're not going to gain anything long term with that. The short term gain mentality.
Absolutely. And over time, I'm sure you didn't step into day one of ownership and everything was running so smoothly. I'm sure there's been plenty of challenges, and you've kind of curated your office, like we said, to run a way that you feel works really well. Looking
Yeah.
back on the earlier days, what were some of those challenges and how did you navigate them?
Earlier days where I drove a dumpier car than every team member for 3 to 4 years. The earlier days, it's stressful because you come out of school and you are suddenly at risk. A lot of, and it's not young dentists' fault, but dental school does not prepare you for graduation. In fact, most students think, I'm really stressed in dental school. When I graduate, life is going to be so much better. And I just want to tell you, it's not. It's not. It's just a different kind of stress. And it's the kind of stress that really bites. In dental school, you might be stressed about stuff, but you've got this preceptor or someone that's helping you and double checking everything and making sure everything is good. You don't have to worry about your assistant being there or whatever. I mean, it's stressful. Dental school sucks. I mean, I'm not saying that, but when you get out of school, it's just a different set of stresses. And so, trying to get back to your question, things that were tough when I started, like before transitioning, I found myself feeling unrewarded. That's it. I mean, I felt like my dentistry was good, like fillings, crowns, I can do these things. What next? And I felt like as a dentist, I was leaving a lot of money on the table. If patients listen to this, they're going to hate this subject, and we can talk about that too. But to all of you dentists out there, it can be profitable and it can be rewarding. It's just, how do you get there? And so I was taking 2 weeks off a year, two weeks, one in the summer because my kids were off, and one at Christmas. And we worked Fridays, and it was terrible. I mean, it was just like, it was a job. It was a job. And I was stressed every month because not knowing, I had a lot of bills. I mean, student debt, we can talk about that too, and maybe one of your questions, but I had a lot of pressure on me to do it, and I didn't feel like, when am I going to be able to learn to scuba dive and travel to Hawaii and whatever? Like, when is that coming? Because I don't see it coming. And so I became a student of business. I shifted because I don't have any business experience. I don't have any family that's teaching me business. I'm a sole provider by myself, just getting what I get, trying not to pitch a fit. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I decided that I was no longer going to live to work. I was going to shift, and I was going to work to live. And I thought, okay, what do I want my life to be like? You got to ask yourself these hard questions. How many days do you want to work? Okay, are you always open? Here's the most important question for me. How much is enough? If you're in debt, you're always open. I remember on a Saturday night, my cell number's on my answering machine. Saturday night, being at the Olive Garden, love the Olive Garden, but it was a long time ago, with my wife, and I got a call from a new patient, never met them before, and their tooth had broke. We packed up our dinner, boxes to go, met him at the office. I mean, you're always open because you're like, I need the work. But if you've set a goal and you're like, this is enough, and you've met that goal, then suddenly on Saturday night, if someone you don't know needs some help, you might manage that a little bit differently rather than crashing your dinner, you know. And so you have to become a student of systems, a student of leadership, a student of business, start reading books. Like, school is not out, school is in. And find the right books to read that can set you up, find the right team. You got to find a vision for what you want, express that to your team, and hope that the ones you have will subscribe to it. Because if they don't, then you have to exercise that leadership stuff. Leadership isn't just being in charge, it's making decisions that are really tough. And sometimes that means letting somebody go who you love. I cry when I have to let an employee go, because you build these relationships with them and you meet with them and you're like, this is kind of what I need. This is what everyone here needs. And if things aren't being done like the minimum standard, then that's okay. There's another job out there for everybody, but it's heartbreaking. But that's leadership, unfortunately.
Did you feel that throughout that transition period when you were starting to gain all this business knowledge, did you feel once you got the knowledge, you had the natural skills to start implementing that and training your team and making
I was
cuts? Like,
scared,
yeah, how did
so
all that
scared.
evolve?
Fear, like, I don't know what it is, and everybody is different. You could take, well, I won't mention any. You can just imagine some famous people who are like good at business. Put in the person that's in your mind. They're very successful at business, but they're also no nonsense, you know, you're fired, right? Whatever, right? Whoever that is that you think, man, they're really successful, they're really savvy at business, probably. I was not that way. I'm more like, I want everybody happy. It's just a personality thing. There are other dentists out there that I'm sure don't have a problem making tough business decisions. But for me, like, when we went from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, and I told everybody, listen, if we don't make as much money over the year, we're going to go back. Now, I said that to them, but in my mind, I knew if we didn't make just as much money with 4 weeks off, I was going to find other team members that would help me do that. That's what was going to happen. But we ended up doing just fine. These are paid weeks off for the team. So we did 4 weeks off. And when I first did that, I was super scared, but I thought, well, that was pretty good. Let's try 5. So I did 5. Then I did 6. It was over several years that you experiment this. I probably could have started with 8 weeks off and been fine, but it was just too emotionally risky for me. Anyway, now we take more than 8 weeks off, all paid, and how do I say this in a way? We make more money with this philosophy. And it's because dentistry is so stressful. You actually need more breaks to decompress so that when you come back to work, you can be your best self. You can provide your best dentistry.
And it's tough for a lot of dentists because when you're getting out of school, it's often the time when you're trying to start other things in your life. Maybe you're getting married, maybe you're having kids, maybe
Yeah.
you want to buy a house, your spouse wants to buy a house, but you have a practice you bought, you have student loans. It's so much on people's plate at that time. Again, thinking back to then, I don't know when you started your family, but what was it like managing family life and practice ownership?
I was I'll get emotional thinking about this. I was the dad who didn't just go to the soccer games. I coached the kids. As dumb as it sounds, my kids did summer swim team, and swim team can be like lame for a spectator because you're there for 2 or 3 hours and your kid swims for literally maybe 2 or 3 events at 2 minutes each. It is terrible. So what do? I go to school and become a stroke and turn judge. I mean, I'm right there up in the pool, got stuff to do. So anyway, not to mention very active in church at the time, active in scouting with the kids and stuff like that. So there was a lot of extracurricular things that I was doing. You have to definitely develop skills on time management and planning. You literally need to sit down and say, with your wife and your kids at the dinner table, even, what do we got this week? How are we going to manage that? And if there are things coming up that you need to schedule time off for, you schedule time off for it. As far as trying to create this successful practice in the middle of doing all of those things, because priority one is family. It's got to be. Now, that doesn't mean you don't work because you want to be home. You got to work. I mean, being at work And being dedicated to your career is a good life lesson to teach for your kids, for them to see that personality trait in you. The opposite is bad. My dad doesn't work. So, but navigating those two things at the same time, you have to realize that success in dentistry is a slow burn. It just is. You're not going to get out of school and just be successful. And it took me years to put together what I've got. So you can't say, well, I want to do what he or she is doing instantly. I mean, the advantage that I have today, 20 years later, is I don't pay for any marketing. Zero. I pay a very small amount for search engine optimization for my website. I don't do any Google ads, no billboards. I don't do any external marketing, any. And why? Because I have a brand. In my town, I've put the time in. We have new patients that they do come from social media. I don't pay for those things. It's just me getting on social media and doing it. So when you're young, you got to pay for some marketing. You got to do some things, some incentives to get people in. You're developing a brand and your brand. And that takes time. It just takes time. And each year you go through and you need to be a student of business. You got to analyze your overhead, where your marketing dollars are going. If it's not working, cut it off. It doesn't matter if your friend sells ads for the radio and you're like, yeah, let's do some radio ads. Sorry, friend, it didn't pay off last year. And breaking even, let's say you spend $20,000 a year on marketing on the radio, hypothetically, and you made, let's say, $25,000, even $30,000 on that marketing. To me, that is a loss. It's a loss. A break even-ish on marketing is not a win. You suddenly have done tons of dentistry for free, and now you're liable for all that dental work. So you have to think about that. It needs to pay many times over for external marketing to really be beneficial. There's plenty of things you can do to get patients in. I mean, I did stuff like, there's a high school right across the street, and I said, hey, a football team, I'd like to make all of your sports guards. You know, every one of those kids that came in, their parents also came in, had to sign the consent forms. It's just exposure and a good thing for the community. There's many things you can do to be creative. The worst thing that you can do is cruise control. And the other thing is, for new dentists, most of them are associates. They don't have a lot of control over stuff, and that's fine. You have to decide what kind of practice that you want. Do you want to be an owner? Do you want to be a partner? Do you want to be an associate? Being an associate is fine. There are lots of advantages to not owning your own business. Owning your business can suck. And there's plenty of, we'll just say, I don't mean to be politically incorrect, but let's say you're a woman and you want to have children. Maybe you only want to work 2 days a week. So yeah, associate may be the thing for you. Other people, they can't stomach the business side of it. They can't stomach the bad Google reviews, having to fire people and all that. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with being an associate, but then you've got to just find in those 3 categories where you are going to thrive and where you are going to find like peace and success for your career in those 3 things. So yeah, you may start as an associate. There's a reason most associates fail, beginner associates. And the reason is because associates are looking for a job. They're not trying to figure out what's the practice philosophy. You know, you see a lot of kids. I don't want to see kids. They're just like, how much does it pay? What are the hours? I'll take it, because they have debt. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Let that little train carry you as far as you can. But in the meantime, you're like, okay, what's next? What am I going to do next? Don't complain about it. Be grateful for the opportunity you have to work, to make some money, and to get your thoughts and your life in order. I'll tell you one other thing that I think is a real mistake that people make. They must work in their hometown. They want to work at the beach. They want to work in a big city. I'm fine with that. If you want to work in Charleston, South Carolina, you're going to struggle. Even like, I went to school in Utah, and Utah and Arizona they're great places to live. They are inundated with dentists. You will see on the doors of the dental office, free exam and x-rays. They're doing anything to get people to come in. I met a dentist. I was giving a lecture at Rosemond Dental School in Salt Lake, and one of the dentists came up to the faculty dentists came up to me before the lecture, and he actually used to live in South Carolina, and we knew each other, but it had been a long time. I had forgotten about it. But he was like, "Hey, do you remember me?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, what's up? What's up?" And I said, "How do you like, practicing in Utah? It's like great place to live." And he said, "Well, we're actually moving. Like we just quit and we're moving to Kansas." And I thought, "Kansas? Like why are you moving to Kansas?" And he said, "We've been doing it for 10 years. And my wife and I realized we are not making our financial goals. And so we've taken this position in Kansas, and we feel like it's just going to be amazing for us." So if you limit yourself, and people that want to do that, they want to live by family. I understand that. But you may not be able, it may take you a lot longer to build that brand and work your way into that if you're in a desirable location. You can find happiness in other places. Okay, you can. It's just, it takes a little bit of leadership and independence. And the more successful you become, the smaller the world is. I can travel to see my kids in Utah, and it's no problem.
Yeah, I know you don't know me much, but I'm in Michigan and I did just that for my associate role. I moved across the state to a little town I'd never heard of because it was an amazing practice, and I hope to partner in the future and everything. So I'm always giving people that advice, that be open to relocating because it can get you where you want to go a lot faster.
Oh, this is going to sound terrible. It can be the difference between a starter home and a 5,000 square foot home. It can be the difference between driving a Honda and driving a BMW comfortably. Anyone can afford. You can afford stuff, okay? But a lot of times we put those things off because we're very nervous about the income. But I'm telling you, and what's more important than a good car is having time off and not worrying about it. When I was closed for the first year when I closed for 4 weeks, I was sweating. Like you're so nervous. And now I'm not. Like we were just off. It doesn't always work out this way, but we were just off 2 weeks ago. And we're off again next week. And I used to be really, really nervous about it. I'm not nervous at all. I have to close. My son, this is a side note. Sorry to waste your time on this. My son is on a church mission in Africa, and he's been gone for 2 years. He comes home in June. And so I have planned 2 weeks off, just closing the office for 2 weeks. And that would have made me super nervous. 2 weeks in a row. But I honestly could close 3 weeks. It wouldn't be a problem, but he's got to get stuff together and get out to school. But anyway, I'm just saying you get a lot more comfortable as time goes on. You start to feel a lot more secure. I met with a periodontist when I very first started, and I told him how nervous I was day to day because my debt service was really high, even back in 2001, which we can talk about if you'd like. I don't mind giving you real numbers about stuff. And he said, "You're going to look back on on the worries." I think I just have like a scarcity mentality. I didn't grow up wealthy. And so I eat what I kill, and I'm nervous every month that no one's going to show up next month. And so, but he's like, "You will look back and you'll kind of laugh at worrying about those things. If you do right by patients, realize that human beings are attached to teeth, and you treat people really well, you don't have anything to worry about."
And I'm curious whether you want to go into specific figures or just mentally throughout this journey. Did you ever have a click in your head, like you mentioned enough earlier? Like, what is enough for me? When am I actually on track? When can I breathe and know, like, okay, everything's going to
Yeah.
work out? When did that moment happen over these years? All right, I'm leaving you on the cliffhanger right here. You'll have to tune in next week to hear his answer to this question and continue learning from his amazing experiences.